Okay, welcome to Architects of Change Live, conversations with change makers who are moving humanity forward, and that's what we're doing this morning. We're talking to a change maker, a big deal one, who's got a new book out. It's called What the Eyes Don't See. Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha is the author of this book, the whistleblower of the Flint water crisis, and a change maker, architect of change on the front line still to this day. And I'm really excited. Welcome.
Thank you, Maria.
Welcome.
It's great to be here. It's an honor.
We came up in the elevator together, and I'm like, you go, girl. You're a ball buster. Look at you.
Thank you. It's doing my job.
Well, no, you took your job to another level. And so what I wanted at this book, which is out, and you can get it on Amazon. Let me repeat that. What the Eyes Don't See, a story of crisis, resistance, and hope in an American city. And so if you live in Flint, this is particular to you, but this is a story, an American story Absolutely. Of our generation. And what you said here, which I thought was so great, is this is the story of the most important and emblematic environmental and public health disaster of this young century. Why is that? Tell me why that is, because that's a big statement.
Absolutely. So this century is young. We're in year 18. This started in year 14 of the century. But what happened in Flint is surreal. It is mind-boggling. It is something that you can't even wrap your mind around it. It is a city in the richest country in the history of the world in the 21st century, a city that is predominantly poor, predominantly minority, a city that is literally in the middle of the Great Lakes. So Michigan, we're the Mitten State.
My son goes to Michigan.
Yay!
Go Blue. So
awesome.
I'm actually really interested
there's a lot of University of Michigan. There's a lot of Michigan State University in this book. So here's Michigan. So here's Ann Arbor, where your son goes to school, and here's Flint. And we are surrounded by the Great Lakes. And the Great Lakes are the largest source of fresh water in the world. 20% of the fresh water in the world is here around Flint.
Right.
Yet we have this population to this day that does not have access to safe drinking water.
Because they made, as you point out in here, an economic decision.
It was a man-made crisis done for the purpose of austerity, done because they wanted to run government like a business, to cut corners, to save money.
So for people who don't know about the Flint water crisis, first let's say that it's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
It was on the front page of every paper. It was on the front page of every newscast. And like happens in this media climate, it just gets replaced by something else. And yet, still, lives are being affected. So what happened, in a nutshell, tell people you went from drinking clean water to drinking water laden with lead.
Yeah, so, and that is why I wrote this book, started almost 2 years ago, to remind the nation that Flint is still a story, but also to remind the nation that this is way more than just about Flint.
Why is this way more than just about Flint?
Because it is about the deeper crises in our nation right now. Flint happened because we lost democracy. We were under emergency management. The people did not have elected officials in charge. We see that everywhere in this nation. We see democracy, the decay of democracy from voter disenfranchisement, from gerrymandering. Your votes here in California don't count as much as we learned in the last election.
So what you're saying, Doctor, that they made a decision to take what was clean water and for austerity purposes, for financial purposes, move it to Flint River, right?
Absolutely.
Which was laden with lead, and nobody said anything about it.
So it was done as a cost-cutting move under the state of emergency management, where the focus was austerity to save money. We went from pre-treated, awesome Great Lakes water to the Flint River. But the Flint River was not polluted. It was not where the lead was. It was not being treated properly with something called corrosion control. So that corrosive water then went into an aging distribution system, lead pipes, which we have lead in all of our plumbing. And that lead leached out of our plumbing into our drinking water and into the bodies of our children for 18 months.
Yes, but basically the Flint water that came into our children was polluted. Full of lead, and you started seeing this in your practice.
No, I didn't.
But a friend said, I read that you were out to dinner or something, and a friend told you that this was happening, and then you went back to your practice and tried to see if you could see it, right?
So that gets to the title of the book, What the Eyes Don't See. So we don't see lead in water. So lead in water is clear, it's odorless, it's tasteless, but the effects of lead we don't see. It is a silent pediatric epidemic. It causes intellectual developmental disabilities. It impacts cognition, behavior, the entire life course trajectory of a child, but it's asymptomatic. We don't see it in kids.
You didn't see this and you didn't know about this, even though you lived there, you treated the kids, and you started listening to a friend who said to you, do you know what's going on?
Exactly. So.
Which is why it's important to go out, to listen to your friends, and to have friends really that are in different areas than you, who I don't have a water expert friend. I was reading this and I said to myself, that wouldn't have happened to me because I don't have a friend.
You are so spot on, Maria. This is one of the lessons of the book. This is a high school girlfriend. We were at home together, reconnecting, drinking a glass of wine together.
Yes.
So connect with your friends, connect with your girlfriends, because we need to get out of our silos.
Right.
So often
this is really important, because when I was reading it, I thought to myself, do I have a friend who knows anything about water? No, I don't. And then I realized going through, I have great friends. But then I thought, wow, if you have friends that are out and about in different areas, they'll tell you stuff.
Exactly.
And so when she told you this, you then went back and started looking, and lo and behold.
Yeah, so lo and behold, that we found that the percentage of children with elevated lead levels had increased after the water switch. And this was contrary to everything that was happening, where children's lead levels had been coming down. And when a pediatrician hears the word lead, we freak out. We know what lead does. It's probably the most well-studied neurotoxins. There is no safe level of lead. Science has taught us so much about lead, and it alters everything that it means to be a person.
So let me ask you, so once you discover this, then you step forward and say, hello, this is what's going on, and everybody shoots you down.
Absolutely, and the book goes into the kind of that rapid, fast pace of what happened. And I was presenting science, I was presenting facts, I was presenting evidence.
That didn't matter.
As a doctor, that we had a crisis and that we needed to protect children. But I was attacked. My science was attacked. My credibility was attacked. Just like everybody else in the 18 months of the story was attacked. The moms, the activists, the pastors, the journalists, the water
experts.
Attacked
by who?
By the state of Michigan, who dismissed and denied their concerns.
And so what is the lesson you think? You say this is a much bigger lesson than just Flint, to anybody who thinks they see something, they know something, they hear something. What do they do?
That you can be a change maker, that you can open your eyes. So this book is about not just Flint, it's about the people, the places, and the problems that we choose to not see all over in this country. But it is about the power that we all have within us, no matter who we are, what we do, or how long we've been in this country. I'm an immigrant. I came here recently. No matter where we are in this world, we have the power to open our eyes, to build a team around us, a diverse team of varied folks, and to create change. The status quo does not need to be how it is. We should not be content with what's happening in our children's lives right now, and we have the power to make that change.
When you say, like, we should open our eyes, but you also have to open your mouth.
You have to open your eyes. It is not enough to be awake.
Yes.
You have to be awake, and you have to be loud, and you have to be stubborn, and you have to be persistent.
So, okay, let's talk about that, because you have to open your eyes, you have to widen your gaze, you have to open your mouth, then you have to be able to stand the onslaught that's going to come at you.
Absolutely.
How scared were you in this journey?
Yeah, nobody could, I expected to be attacked because everybody in the story had been attacked, but nobody can prepare you for when the state attacks you and says you are wrong, dismisses your research. I was called an unfortunate researcher, that I was causing near hysteria, that I was splicing and dicing numbers. And for a moment, I believed them. I thought I was wrong. I thought I was wrong. And I just wanted to hide. I did. I hid under my sheets. I'm like, this needs to go away. What am I going to do? I just created a huge mistake. But inside me, I found a strength that wasn't there before. And that strength was part of my village of support. But the strength was ultimately the children that I care for. My research was based on statistics and numbers and evidence, but every number I realized was a child, and it was probably a child that I had cared for in that last year, and that is the power that was reignited in me to get back in this fight.
I think that's so interesting, right? That you can be a scientist, you can have an entire career behind you, you can present the facts, be totally sure, open your eyes, use your voice, and that the onslaught can sow doubt in your own mind. You can begin to doubt yourself. That's happened to me, right? That's how you start to wonder, like, did I make that up? Is that right? Am I right? Did I?
Despite double checking, triple checking, like I knew this was right. Is it really right?
Talk a little bit about that, because I think that so many people go through that and then think like, I shouldn't say anything because I'm not really 100% sure, or I'm going to doubt myself.
Yeah, so much of the story and this work and the lessons here are about following your gut and standing up for what's right. But whenever you do that, it is scary. Like, there was a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. I had just bought a Fitbit, and I knew my heart rate, and it was close to 200. Like, I was physically shaking. It was such a visceral reaction to that onslaught of attack and that uncertainty. But
wow,
it takes a lot of... what is the phrase? Without fear, there is no bravery and there is no courage.
Yeah, there is no courage. I always say courage isn't the absence of fear. It's having fear and doing it anyway.
So it is so easy for us to stay silent in our lives, to go in and to go out of work, to clock in, to clock out, to be automatons, to be blinded to the injustices that are happening everywhere. But it is all of our responsibilities to be scared, to have our heart rate go up, because then that's the only way change will happen.
So talk a little bit about, since Flint was such a big story, and now we don't really hear anything about it. So here you come with this book. What is the status of the drinking water today in Flint? How difficult is it to keep this story front and center?
Yeah. So that's absolutely one of the reasons I wrote this book, because I knew when I started this over 2 years ago, we would need a way to shine a spotlight back on Flint, because our story is a long-term story. So this book is a story of crisis, resistance. It's about the activism, the collective resistance. It's a playbook for folks, but it's also a story of hope. I want people to go away with not thinking Flint equals disaster, but Flint is a model of recovery. We are doing things right now in Flint that aren't being done anywhere else.
Give me an example.
For the children. So science was denied in Flint. A clear, common sense, the science was denied.
Yeah.
Science ultimately spoke truth to power, and we are using the science of child development, of brain development, of resilience to mitigate, to limit, to buffer the impact of this crisis. We can't take it away, but we are throwing everything at our children. So we have doubled the capacity of home visiting programs. We have early literacy programming, which we never had before. Places like Flint, there's one book for every 300 children. Imagine that. One book for every 300 kids. Our kids by the age of 3 have heard 30 million less words. So because of our work...
Just pause a second there, because that's like really... our ears got to absorb that a minute. One book...
in low-income communities,
for every 300
there's
children.
One children's book for every 300 kids. And because of that lack of words and lack of books, they hear about 30 million less words. This is based on national research than other more middle-income children.
That's here in the great United States of America.
Absolutely. And so you see evidence of that achievement gap at 18 months of age for many of these children. By the time they reach kindergarten, it is almost impossible to bridge that achievement gap. So knowing this, knowing also what lead does to children's development, in Flint, we have made massive investments. Every kid in Flint now gets a book mailed to them every single month from the age of 0 to 5.
From who?
From a program that we started called Flint Kids Read. It's the Imagination Library program that Dolly Parton actually started, and we now are a partner with that. Part of the proceeds of this book go to our Flint Kids Fund,
so
which
that's
supports
important.
That.
When you buy the book, part of the proceeds go to the fund that was started to help these children. But what is the water that they're drinking?
So the water, people in Flint cannot do this yet. So we are still on bottled water and filtered water because our pipes are replaced. So for 18 months we were on...
Can't do this. Look at this. Okay.
we can't do this. So for 18 months we were on this corrosive, untreated water. Shortly after my research was announced, we went back to Great Lakes water. We went back to what they said was impossible. We went back to treated water. But the 18 months of corrosive water ate up our pipes, and they are being replaced. But that takes time. So until people's pipes are replaced, and we've replaced about 6,000 lead pipes, there's about 9,000 to go, people have to remain on filtered water and bottled water.
So you wouldn't drink you'd only drink filtered or bottled water today?
So what I have learned through this process is that we were never guaranteed in this nation to have lead-free water. The rules on the book, the federal rules are weak. Water everywhere can have lead in it. So if there's a pregnant mom or a young child, especially on formula mixes with this water, I recommend that everybody use filtered water.
Regardless of where you live.
Regardless of where you live. If you have an older home, we were stubbornly slow as a nation to restrict lead in a lot of its use,
yes,
but especially in our plumbing.
It was in our paint.
It was in our paint. It was in
right.
our gasoline. And there's a lot of evil lead history in this book as well, because we need to learn from the history to know kind of why we're at our current spots.
So you talk about in here, which I like this, a crying baby gives me a deep sense of mission. What is your deep sense of mission? We hear so much about, you got to have a purpose in life. You got to have a mission. The Sunday paper that many of you read, and this will be in the Sunday paper, we say it's a paper for people with passion and purpose. And yet so many people say, I can't find my purpose. I can't find my mission. How did you find your mission in a crying baby?
Yeah, so my mission are these crying babies, because these are my kids. These children are no different than my children. And my babies in Flint, they grow up in a zip code that almost predicts their entire life course trajectory. They grow up with so many obstacles in their way. We have a 60% childhood poverty rate. We have a high violent crime rate, unemployment, racism, discrimination, no full service grocery stores. These kids have every obstacle to succeed, and that is my mission, because that's not how it should be. I came to this country as an immigrant, and the American dream was realized for me and my family. But the kids that I take care of in Flint, they are waking up to a nightmare every single day, and that is happening right outside our streets. And it's not just Flint kids. It is kids in the Rust Belt and the East Coast and the West Coast and rural America, black, brown, and white. Children all over are waking up to insurmountable toxicities. The toxicity of lead, the toxicity of poverty, the toxicity of lost democracy, of racism. And that is my mission. We need to invest in our children.
Well, what is your beautifully said, you're like, close your eyes and make it better, what would it look like?
There's some tangible things I think we can do.
Yeah.
As a pediatrician, I took an oath to protect children. My voice is there to speak up for kids, and all of this work I continue to do is part of my professional obligation to be that advocate for children.
But it's beyond a professional obligation.
It is. It is a moral and it is an ethical, and I would argue that we all took that oath, or we all should take that oath to protect children. And right now in this country, it's as if we are at war against our children. Look what's happening to the border with these kids being separated from parents. That is government-sanctioned child abuse. Look at what's happening in our schools. Children
because of the trauma,
the toxic stress. It will cause known, developmental issues, lifelong scars. Look at our children being slaughtered in schools because of our inaction on gun violence. Look at our national childhood poverty rate. There's so many issues in this nation where we do not value children. That is my mission, for us to value children, to recognize
what does
the
that
science.
look like?
So that looks like
practical things. There are people who are sitting out there who don't live in Flint, but as her point is, if you are a pregnant mother or nursing mother, or really somebody who's health conscious, right, that you should drink bottled water, I think that, or filtered water. I think that bottled water is expensive, so filtered water. But what can people do who whose eyes have not seen, who are frustrated and are seeking mission, purpose?
Yeah, so I think it doesn't have to be about water, and it doesn't have to be about lead. It's about fundamentally how we care for each other. So I talked about how we disregard our children. And do we want to be a society that has differential access to water based on your privilege or based on healthcare services? Some of these things are rights and justices. Yeah. So that is my mission, that we become a nation that treats children with value, with equality. And it is selfish for us as a nation not to do, because they are ultimately our future. So it is opening individual eyes. It is opening your friends and neighbors' eyes. It's becoming civically engaged, voting, working on campaigns, giving money to campaigns. It's just being an active member of your society. And ordinary people. Like, this book is about ordinary people who came together, moms and journalists and scientists and different folks with different political spectrums and different professions who came together saying, we've had enough.
Yeah, because I think that's a good thing to talk about, coming together, because we're told we can't come together, we're divided, there's no hope. And I'm a big believer that we can come together, that there are many more good people.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes they don't yell the loudest, so we don't hear them, we don't see them, our eyes don't see them.
Exactly.
But they're out there. How do you get people to come together? Since you did it, what's it take?
And that's what this book is all about, how to bring people together. And I think we have so many assumptions and biases. Like, I assumed as a pediatrician that we had the monopoly on caring for children. Like, there's nobody else who cares as much about kids as pediatricians. But I was wrong. Like, a water engineer from Virginia cared as much about children. And obviously moms, and a journalist, and activists. So we think that we are so often alone in these fights, whatever fight we are fighting, but we are not alone. So it's having that conversation with old friends. It's networking with folks. It's going on social media and finding people that connect with you, and they're there. People are never alone, but you got to go out and find them.
I think also dropping assumptions about, quote, the other. We always think, I wrote this week in the Sunday paper, don't ask people their political affiliation. Yeah. Don't ask who they vote for. Just ask them what they care about.
Exactly.
Ask them if they want to come together and work with you on whatever issue that you find passion or purpose in. And I think so often we start with those kind of heated conversations, and instead you can back them up and start with what we have in common, how we might come together.
And I think a lot of folks don't think that they have power or credibility, or that nobody will listen to them.
Did you think that?
Not really. Like, I think I'm in such a privileged profession as a pediatrician.
Right.
Like, I think I always felt my voice was credible.
But you said you doubted it.
I doubted it. When we came out, I doubted that. But so many of my messages, like so many doctors now, like, you go into medicine because you want to do good, but doctors have lost a lot of their credibility in their community. They just get so consumed, and this is research on doctors get jaded over time, and they get focused on billing and coding and seeing patients and revenue, and they forget that they're an active and vocal and credible part of communities. But it's not just doctors. It's teachers, and it's journalists, and it's parents and the PTA. These are all credible voices, but I think people, they fail to think that their voice is worthy or knowledgeable, or that they have the right to speak up. And they do, because it makes waves. This story is almost like a domino effect. And I was really the last domino in this story. There were so many other folks who made it happen to be where I was. It was about being at the right place at the right time with the right team.
Right. So did you see yourself as a architect of change, a change maker before this?
So if you read the book, you can't learn about my role in this crisis without learning about me. And I mentioned I was an immigrant. We came to this country when I was 4, fleeing the regime of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. We came to this country for freedom and opportunity and democracy, and that was absolutely realized. But I woke up very much I woke up in this country every day so lucky to be here, but also
feeling that.
Yes, feeling so fortunate to be here, knowing what my cousins were experiencing back home. But that gave me a different lens, because I very acutely knew what injustice was. And my parents never shielded me away from what evil regimes could do to vulnerable populations. In this book, I talk about the first time that I actually saw a dead baby. And my father showed me a picture of a baby who was poisoned in Halabja in northern Iraq, in Kurdistan, by Saddam Hussein. It was the largest chemical weapons attack. 5,000 people died. And it was this beautiful baby who was cuddled by her father. Both of them were poisoned on the street. And I had nightmares for months for months and months. And I don't know if that's what pushed me to go into medicine, but that's one of the many things that pushed me to go into a career of service and to be always an activist and to always almost have that heightened antenna for injustice, knowing that there are people who are suffering disproportionately than others.
That's the truth, right, of where we live and what goes on in our country, that there are people in the apartment next to us, on the street next to us, at the cubicle next to us in our offices that are suffering immeasurably. I found that when I did the film Paycheck to Paycheck, and so many people said, like, wow, I didn't realize that the woman sitting next to me who was dressed in a nice outfit was actually struggling paycheck to paycheck, because we're all masking, right? We're all like pretending that, we've got it together. We're all like, trying to prove that, and so few people actually do.
Absolutely. And it's increasingly difficult to get ahead or to make it in America right now. To get out of poverty is so difficult. There's a lot of people who are suffering.
One of the things that struck me about the Flint story were the moms.
Yeah, the moms were amazing. They messed with the wrong moms.
They messed with the wrong moms. So those are women who really found their passion and their purpose in their children, right?
Yeah.
And fought for them, and in a way found also their own voices. What'd you learn from them?
Oh my God, I learned so much from them. And there's so much history of moms who step up and fight for their kids.
All over the
fight
world.
For all kids. But like, think of Erin Brockovich and Lewis Gibbs, like all these incredible moms who may have been like stay-at-home moms, but noticed something wrong and they stepped up and they created incredible change. So I learned from them so much, but it fundamentally went back to one of my first lessons of being a pediatrician. And as a pediatrician, we are taught that moms are always right. Moms are always right. If a mom is concerned about their kid, if a mom is worried, if a mom says their baby has a fever, they're right. The moms are always right. And for so long, the moms were dismissed in this story, but the moms were right.
So if you're a mom out there, or if you're just kind of a mom in general, like I know a lot of moms who just consider themselves moms of neighborhoods, moms of cities, whatever, you are right, because don't let anybody tell you that your gut isn't right. If you feel it, if you're experiencing it, you're probably ahead of the curve.
And you are powerful. Moms are powerful, and use your power for change.
Right. And all of us, really, men and women.
Yeah, dads too. Dads are great too.
Yeah. So I think if you buy this book, What the Eyes Don't See, you'll not only learn a lot about Dr. Mona, but you'll learn a lot about her story. Refugee stories are very front and center in our country right now. Here's a really great example of someone who came here fleeing a regime and woke up grateful every day and is changing our country. So keep that in mind when you're reading about refugees and talking about it and railing about it. And also, if you buy this book, you'll help the work that continues in Flint. So what is the one thing you want people to do other than read this book and buy this book?
To just open their eyes. So be aware of what's happening in your communities. It's not just about Flint. It's about really what's happening in our nation right now. But don't just open your eyes. Don't just be awake. Take action. Get involved. Make a difference. And you have the power to do that. You have the power to be that architect of change.
Are you proud of yourself?
I feel privileged. I'm privileged and blessed. I have been given this amazing microphone, and I am going to hold on to it as long as I can to impact as many kids as I can. So I recognize how lucky I am to do this.
So next time I come to Ann Arbor, I want to come step on you first.
Absolutely,
right?
Love to see you.
That's a commitment.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm going to come there, look at what you're doing, and open my eyes a little bit more.
Come to Flint, you'll be surprised. It's a beautiful city.
I think that's the thing,
and we're really doing innovative work on the children's behalf. It's a place that's rolled up their sleeves and committed to not being defined by this crisis, but really being defined by our recovery.
I love that. You're not a victim being defined by your recovery, by your survivor story.
Right.
That's important no matter what has happened in your life.
Absolutely.
Don't tell the story of what happened. Tell the story of your recovery. I'm going to remember that today. I'm going to tell myself that all day.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Let's repeat that. What the Eyes Don't See, a story of crisis, resistance, and hope in an American city. And remember, the good people triumph. There are more of
Yes.
them out there
Yes.
than you know, than you think, and you're one of them.
Yep.
If you're listening to this, for sure you're one of them. Open your eyes. Thanks. Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, thank you. Can I hug you?
There
Oh,
you
you're
go.
awesome.
That was great.
You're incredible.